I think we've moved the needle some today. Your stories have been amplified. There are a lot of people that have been listening today. And I think the American people know more now how the policies that, despite having himself continued, those policies have resulted in more trafficked children, more trafficked fentanyl, more crime, more trauma and anxiety on the Border Patrol agents and their families. You have gotten that message out. We've also heard today from even the minority witness that Biden's policies are part of the problem. And at least two of the members of the minority today actually admitted there's a big border crisis. That's a movement of the needle. That's a movement of the needle. Thank goodness. But one of the best indicators that some success today is that the minority never really fought to defend Mayorkas' policies. The theme of today's Democrat questions and even their selection of a witness, it's about beat up Trump. The mantra is all back to the kids in cages, which, by the way, and the minority seems to forget this, the images from that the press used were from the Obama administration. But that deflection speaks volumes, and I think that's a good thing for us all to observe. And I want to take a look, too, at one of the other deflections from the minority party. This echoing argument from almost all of them about we have to fix immigration law. Well, I agree. But we have to secure the border first, or the incentive just keeps more mass waves of people coming. And I really appreciate the ranking member in his closing comments who just said other committees are involved. It'd be great if we could all focus on the Homeland Security piece of this and instead of spending a lot of time talking about immigration reform, because that is another committee. He's absolutely right. That's Judiciary Committee. And so I thank him for actually bringing that up. This committee is about Homeland Security, and the greatest issue in Homeland Security right now is border security. And we did pass a bill that contained many of the solutions our witnesses talked about today and asked for, H.R. 2. We also heard that this is just some kind of an impeachment hearing. Well, I'll remind my colleagues that oversight is one of our responsibilities. We write laws, and yes, oversight is one of our responsibilities. You know what? Greater than 200,000 dead Americans, I think that warrants the time until we get it stopped. 85,000 children that the sponsor doesn't want to pick up the phone, okay. They're not picking up the phone. I'm sorry, those people, those children deserve us getting to the bottom of it. But since they want to compare Trump and Biden, let's do it. Let's look at some numbers. The minority speaks about 5,500 separated children. Any child separated is bad, but they talk about that and almost to a person today. Going back to Trump, this administration has separated 400,000 children from their parents by not sending them back to their parents in their home countries. 400,000 that have been separated. 85,000, okay, Mr. Bishop said 6%, that which means 7% of that number. If it's just 7% of that number, that's more than the previous administration. Tens of thousands of American parents permanently separated from their children because they're dead due to the fentanyl pouring across our southern border. The minority members also mentioned the deaths of the border migrants during Mr. Trump's administration. And I remember I was here during a hearing, sitting right over there, as a member of this committee when we were concerned about 3 children that had died. And fortunately, as an ER physician, I got to be an expert witness, so to speak, in my questioning about that. Many of the members deferring to me, allowing me to keep asking questions. There were 3 deaths we were talking about, 1,700 deaths, and they quit telling the American people about it. And if you look at the rate, that's 3 times the rate of the previous president. So if you want to compare numbers or you want to compare presidents, sure, we'll do that. There was also something I took offense to, and someone said that we weren't upholding American values. And I don't think it was the ranking member. I don't know who it was. Someone made the accusation we're somehow not upholding American values. Yes, I believe we're a nation of immigrants, and I am for legal immigration. We have unfilled jobs in this country. We have to get this fixed, but you can't fix that first. You have to fix border security, which is our job in this committee. But I want to say this about American values. I think one of our greatest values is upholding the rule of law. Mayorkas is violating the rule of law. The courts have deemed so that by the way they're doing the judicial side of the INA, executing the INA law, is against the law. And CBP One app doesn't suddenly create a legal pathway into the United States. I'm sorry, it does not. How about the American value of upholding the rule of law? And we've heard from our witnesses today that save lives. We've also heard, and I deeply believe it's true, that Mr. Mayorkas knows his policies have increased the number of trafficked human beings and knows that it has increased the number of dead Americans due to drugs, yet he's done nothing. We heard in questions from Mr. McCall that by ignoring this fact, the fact that the policies have increased human trafficking, Mr. McCall, a former federal prosecutor, that at a minimum it's complicity and that it's potentially aiding and abetting the drug cartels in their crimes. We will continue to look into that. There are also accusations of our side that we've not done anything but investigate. Just all we're about is this investigation. But interestingly, the ranking member even mentioned a co-sponsored bill between him and Representative Garbarino that actually passed in this Congress. And I recall a bill that Mr. Swalwell and I reached across the aisle and did on cybersecurity. It's time for oversight on these 200,000 dead Americans. And Ms. Snodgrass, I commend you. My son was born about the same time your son was. And your loss is incomprehensible. But your response for fighting for American families and the cause of your son's bill, your son will live forever in that piece of legislation because I told my team today to sign me onto that bill, and we will get it across the finish line. Ms. Cantu, thank you for your service to this great country. My spouse served as an Army wife for 24 years, and when you're in that position, it's tough. And the crisis that's going on at our southern border right now, one of our own making, you shouldn't have to be enduring, but I do appreciate you, and I really thank you for being here today. Mr. Gallant, I think I heard you say that the ACLU, or at least the government, should be at least looking into these 85,000 phone calls that haven't been answered, and so for that, I want to appreciate you saying that. I think I did hear you say that, and I want to thank you for being here today, really do. Mr. Ballard. Thanks for being an American hero and going after those kids. These cartels who capture these kids are some of the most violent people and most dangerous people on the planet. I've seen the videos of what they do when they catch people. And you had the guts to go into the mouth of the dragon and rescue little children. You are a hero. And I hope America's youth know your story and emulate you. It would be great for our country if they would. I agree. God's children should not be for sale. But tragically, many are. And as we've heard today, Secretary Mayorkas' policies have increased the number trafficked and increased the number of dead from fentanyl. And knowing this, he's done nothing. This hearing will be followed by a hearing on the financial costs. Now, we've talked about the human costs. We also need to look at the financial costs of an open border. I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, thank our witnesses. Thank the ranking member. This committee is adjourned.